want to stand on the shoulders of Google, of Microsoft Azure, and Amazon. And you might be able to destroy some physical artifacts. You might be able to do that for a period of time, but you can't take down what these tech giants have done. And through whatever SEO and search engine optimization and whatnot, I can create a platform that will outshine, create a rose in the desert to help rebuild.
Hello everyone, it's Odessa back again with episode 76 of the Assyrian Podcast. February of this year, I had a chance to sit with the Benjamin brothers, Paul and Sargon. You ever meet people and are like, they are just wired differently? But in a good way. That's exactly what I think about today's guests. Paul and Sargon are the founders of Base2 Applications, a startup that created mobile applications. They would participate in hackathons and their ideas would win, including winning the People's Choice Awards and $25,000 from Verizon. Also winning a CTIA mobile challenge and having their announcement shown on a big screen in the middle of Times Square in New York with their photo. And other wins that led to partnerships with companies like Google, AT&T, T-Mobile, and more. Living in the heart of Silicon Valley, they fully immerse themselves as leaders in the tech world and are just killing it. They've opened the door of opportunity for other Assyrians to work with them and love that they've taken their talents and invested them back into the community over the years with the Assyrian app marketplace and Sargon's initiatives of sargonsays.com, which is an English to Assyrian dictionary, and Lodbi.com, which is like a Yelp for Assyrian locations. As if that's not enough to tire one out, we also discuss how exercise is their way of releasing stress, and boy do they love a good challenge. Paul discusses his passion in competing in triathlons, and Sargon with Spartan races. Like, these guys do not mess around. Lastly, you'll be in for a surprise treat at the end with a musical performance by one of the brothers. I won't tell you who, but you will be amazed. Ooh, one more thing. The Assyrian Podcast will be at this year's Assyrian Convention hosted by the Assyrian American National Federation in Palm Springs, California. We'll be presenting a workshop on Saturday and would love to see you there. We'll also have some Assyrian Podcast swag with us, so be sure to ask us about it. Support for this week's episode of the Assyrian Podcast is brought to you by Tony Kalogerakos and the injury lawyers of Illinois and New York. If you know anyone that has been in a serious accident, please reach out to Tony Kalogerakos. Tony has been recognized as a top 40 lawyer and a rising star by Super Lawyers publication and has obtained multiple multi-million-dollar awards. Tony can be reached at injuryrights.com or 847-982-9516. Now, here are Paul and Sargon. All right, so Paul and Sargon, you were born in Santa Clara, but moved to Sacramento. Yep. At what age?
So we moved to Sacramento just before the Gulf War, just before 1990. So Paul was born in 86. He would have been 4 years old. I would have been almost 7. We moved to a town called Orangeville. It's a very kind of like rural town. Like, we grew up picking fruit during the summers and whatnot.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
And so what brought the move to Sacramento from Santa Clara?
Our dad was in real estate, so he kind of got some leads and moved the whole family out there.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Orangeville, how far out is that from Sacramento?
20, 25 minutes east of Sacramento on the way to, let's say, like Folsom or Roseville.
And for the listeners that are maybe unfamiliar with Sacramento, Sacramento is the state capital of California, and it's in Northern California.
Well, and we have the best basketball team.
Yeah.
The Kings. We came up in the Vlade Divac, Chris Webber era.
I know that there's a small but vibrant Assyrian community there. Was there when you all moved?
Honestly, there was. We, though, weren't as involved in the community. So it was very small to begin with, and then we were just kind of on our own. I mean, you gotta think Orangeville is a small little town. You know, we're on kind of farmland, basically. If we ever wanted to go hang out with Assyrians, either we'd go to San Jose or Modesto.
Which aren't too far away anyway.
Which aren't, but we wouldn't really make those trips out. You know, we've become some sort of whitewashed Assyrians to some extent.
What does that mean to you?
I mean, we're American and Assyrian, right? So when someone says, you know, what are you? Essentially, we're both. But over time, kind of we reconnected back with the community.
To preface kind of what Paul said is both of our parents worked, right? And so the whole real estate thing for my dad actually after the Gulf War didn't pan out the way we wanted it to. So we had some rough times. So growing up, both our parents worked full time and overtime. And so like Paul's saying, we kind of lost touch with even the language. And it's been nice as adults to reconnect back to it and incorporate that into the thing that we do on a daily basis. But I think now the Assyrian community in Sacramento is very vibrant. And I think part of that is owed to kind of the gentrification actually of the Bay Area. I think a lot of people are moving out, or those who want to come to California rather than like picking San Jose, which is, you pay $1 million for a little box. They're going to just a little east of there towards Sacramento. There's still industry. So I think now the community there is actually pretty vibrant. So yeah, it's nice to see that Assyrian community doing well there.
What was the population like in Orangeville? Put in context.
It's a small
10,000.
Yeah, it's not
10,000. So what was your graduating high school? How many people?
So our high school was quite interesting. We went to a all-male Catholic school. Going to Jesuit high school was like one of the best things. It was there. I'd say they asked us a lot about our culture. Like the Jesuit priests were very curious about our culture. And when they asked us, oh, where are your grandparents from? I didn't know the answer back then, and then I came to San Jose and everyone said, oh, we're whatever, Shaputnaya, we're B'nai Javil, and these were terms I wanted to know, but it didn't resonate with me. And so then I think that rekindled an interest to kind of learn more about our roots, and so to find out, hey, where's my grandmother from my father from? How did she get married to my grandfather, right? And I think it's nice to know where you came from and where you are now, and maybe what makes you or shapes you the way you are, and kind of whose shoulders you can stand on when you're faced with adversity or whatever it is that life brings at you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember you remember Father Olson?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he, I was taking one of his classes and he had me go in front of the class and say the prayer in Assyrian.
Yeah. But even then, even when we say the prayer, when we grow up,
it
would always not be the most confident prayer.
But they didn't even know. Who
So
knows? They didn't
care.
That's really awesome. I think it's so cool when people have a genuine curiosity of who you are. And you were in a place that there weren't other Assyrians. Did you ever at any point feel embarrassed to talk about who you were? Because you're like, oh, what are the chances anyone's going to know? And it's...
No, I'm usually pretty prideful. If someone says, oh, are you Persian? Or, are you Middle Eastern? Are you Arab? And it's like, no, I'm Assyrian.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And
Syria,
like, oh, yeah,
that's a country.
Syrians, yeah. And I'm like, no.
It must be so hard for you right now.
So then I go through the full history lesson.
Yeah.
And then I even had this one time where someone was like, oh, I thought Assyrians don't exist anymore. And I'm like, I'm standing right here. Yeah. Like, do you not see me? And so I had to go through kind of that whole thing with them. And it was funny to have that type of conversation.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you didn't want to talk, you didn't want to have a full-on... It's a 5-minute conversation. But
download the app.
Yeah.
We owe it to people. But what's interesting is you see your parents do it all the time. So our father would always be telling people. And then, as a kid, you would think, oh, here we go again. But then when you grow up, you realize, that it's a very unique culture.
And how important it is to tell people, right? That's like the educational opportunity right there. They just generally don't know.
And I feel like what works is if there's a way you can connect it back. Like if it can resonate with the person. Like obviously no one wants to be it's shoved down their throat. Hey, I'm this, I'm this. They just want to connect with somebody. And so if they feel like you're open to hearing their story, sometimes it gives you a little space to tell yours. And then if you can get it to turn full circle, like our dad would say, Assyrians invented the number 0. Or, so we'll say, hey, do you like baklava? Okay, well,
Okay,
well, that's actually kind of interesting because people do say like there's some of the people that once they find out you're Assyrian, they're like, oh, I know an Assyrian.
And the best moments is when you're in a group and you have a non-Assyrian be your warrior. Like if someone says, oh, what's an Assyrian? And then you're about to start speaking and then some non-Assyrian will be like, oh, they invented this. They come from the land between the Tigris and Euphrates River. And like a total white person saying this. And those are nice moments.
So was it college time that you decided to get out? Paul, you went to UCLA?
Went to UCLA, got a math degree there. Yeah.
And you went to Santa Clara?
I went to Santa Clara University. Yeah, and they had a 4-year undergrad program, but then you could tackle on an extra year and do your grad degree. So I did computer science and then software engineering.
Sargon built his own computers when he was a kid. Like he literally put them together. These, you remember the old 486 that he put together? And we used to have 286, the legacy Pentium, and then there was this guy. Remember Rice? What was his name?
So
Rice?
there were some experiences as a child that kind of shaped and influenced my decision to choose tech. So I knew early on I was gonna go into tech.
Here's a PG story. So he created a LAN network at the house where we could play against each other. I think it was in Command and Conquer. So we had 2 computers connected on the same network in the house where we could play against each other in the game. So we weren't allowed to like go into the other room to go see what the other person was doing because it was like a strategy game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, how challenging is that to do?
The most challenging thing, like I'd say, was the first thing that happened. So our dad was a real estate agent, and he had this program called MLS, like multiple listing service, and we had a dial-up modem that he would get the listings. I was looking through the Packard Bell manual of the computer, and it said to speed up the computer, run this format command. I was like, oh, okay, let's try this out. So I'm tinkering away. I type format, restart the computer, and nothing loads. It's just like the BIOS screen. And I had even wiped out the recovery disk. Okay, so my dad's computer is hosed. Okay, and he had always told, don't mess with this, you know. And so he was very serious about that. He was pretty strict. So like Paul said, though, we had a neighbor like 3 doors down. His name was Carl. He was a Vietnam War vet, and he'd even married a Vietnamese lady. I think he found over there. And so he was good with computers. I knock on his door. It's the evening, and he goes, "Hey, what's up?" And I said, I need your Windows 3.1 floppy disks, which I never understood because they were actually hard disks, but they call them floppy disks. So I said, "I need the disks," and I wiped out my computer accidentally. And he shook his head and he said no. And I remember his cheeks even shook when he said no. He was a little heavier set. And then I told him, he said, because you need the serial number, and this is my serial codes that I paid for, otherwise it'd be piracy. And I said, no, that's fine. I have a serial number too. At least I thought I did. And but I wiped away the backup recovery thing. So I just need to reinstall my dad's computer.
Were you panicking at this point?
I kind of knew it would work out somehow. But yes, I was afraid for the belt. So then he lets me in his house, and I remember his house had this like stench to it. It didn't smell bad. It just smelled like an older person. And I remember that always kind of stuck with me. He gave me the 15 discs that I needed. And it was like, those floppy disks that you put on the computer. And that night that was my first all-nighter. As a kid, that was my very first all-nighter. Spent all night redoing the computer. Put my dad's MLS on there and just kind of learn. And, there was no Google or anything like that. Yeah. And then the next morning, my dad was just on his computer. I could hear the dial-up modem. His MLS was there. And he never said a peep. He never found out. And I think I kind of had one of those silent kind of moments. I said, I think I could be good at this. And this was kind of fun. And I like being in the shadows, and he never found out. And so that was one thing that kind of led me down the path of tech. Hey, this is fun, and it's pretty exciting.
You had a natural talent for it.
Well, I think there's all kinds of artists. So a lot of people call computer scientists or software engineers, and they can be, but there's an art to it. There's a dance to it. There's a music to it, right? There are patterns. There are ways. There are designs to it. So I mean, Paul knows this as well. So I view it as it's really an art, and yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. I've never heard that before, but I can totally understand where you're coming from. And Paul, you said that you graduated with a mathematics degree.
Yeah.
So at that point, did you know that you wanted to enter tech, or what was sort of going on in your mind?
So my trip from the move from Los Angeles to San Jose is an interesting one. Kind of trying to figure out what I want to do. And so usually that fall before you graduate, you go through the interview cycle. And so as a math major, I wanted to do actuarial work. I don't know if you guys ever watched Along Came Polly. So Ben Stiller.
Scuba.
Yeah. Ben Stiller is an actuary, and he basically plugs some mathematical model to understand the risks, life expectancy risks of certain people, whether or not they get insured or not. So I was along that path of becoming an actuary.
How did you even decide that you wanted to go into mathematics?
I just liked numbers. I was always
Okay.
good at math.
Nice.
I mean, that was just kind of my interests. You know,
You had a knack for it.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, more so than reading.
Okay.
Whenever I had to read a book, I always read the Cliff Notes.
Nice.
Even though I could read and understand, I had no patience for it. That's changed now. I actually read a lot now. But, I mean, that's how I came about to finding math and then understanding that at first I was going down the statistics route, and then I found the actuarial science part of it, and I thought that was really interesting. At the end of it all, during the interview process, I interviewed for actuarial jobs, and then I also interviewed for finance-related jobs. One of the interview opportunities I got was with Cisco as a finance manager.
Cool.
And so they accepted me. They do on-campus recruiting, so they go on campus, they do the interviews there, and if they like you, they'll fly you up to San Jose, do another round of interviews, and then let you know whether or not you got the job. So I go there, and the day before, they're having like this little get-together just to get to know your interviewees.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking to some of these folks and get a good vibe for them, and I meet this one lady, and so the next day I come in for the interview, and I interview with one person, and I interview with her. And she has me talking about, Cisco, what I've done at UCLA as a math guy. And then on the resume, I had something about being Assyrian. Like, I was part of the Assyrian club over there where we put on some events. And she's like, tell me a little bit about, this Assyrian club. What did you do? And so I go into my little spiel. In the middle of it, she's like, Paul? I was like, yeah. She's like, Ana Suretan. And I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? I'm like, you made me go through all of this. You might as well have just said at the beginning, and then I would have known it's a done deal. And then so she kind of, coached me along the interview process, and then I ended up accepting the job at Cisco.
That's amazing.
So ever since that act of kindness, anything I do now, if I see an Assyrian on a resume, it gets their foot in the door. It doesn't get them the job, but it gets their foot in the door to see whether or not they're fully qualified. And if they are, then I usually bring them on.
Wow.
Every time I see her, I remind her of it, and I think she's tired of it. But I'll never forget it.
The thing for you is, I think for that to be a long-term model to work, I think you're not necessarily thinking that you're doing anybody a favor. When you say pay it forward, you're really paying yourself as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there has to, for that model to work long-term, there has to be some incentive outside of just the aspirational, hey, we're Assyrian, we're in this together, which is probably the most important thing. But there also has to be an incentive for Paul to take that action. Otherwise, there's going to be a feeling of, oh, the gratitude isn't being reflected back. So he's doing it because he needs highly qualified people working for him, right? And he has a vested interest. He has an incentive to hire highly qualified people where he's a leader at. And so
if they happen to be Assyrian,
then so be it. So the thing is, I think the key is, you can think about paying it forward, but I think you're really also paying it forward to yourself.
Yeah.
Because
it's
are
mutually beneficial.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I mean, I view the community as a fraternity. So
party, bro.
I was in a fraternity and I did a lot of that, but this is in a different sense, not just a guy thing. It's it's women as well. You have an instant connection and a bond and understanding of one another, and so that to me is important because if you brought in the right person, you can trust them. And so the ones that I have brought on, Sargon said, yeah, I'm gaining out of it. I totally am, because they're making my life a lot easier. At the same time, I'm entrusting them and empowering them to be able to do some pretty awesome stuff. And it's actual career work. It's not, little jobs here or there. This is actual, they can start a family with the stuff that they're doing with me.
How many times would you say that you've done that, where you've employed or helped to employ somebody who was Assyrian? Right
now, 2 that are working with me right now. But from a career perspective, I mean, these guys moved up. They've moved their lives, changed things for them, and actually they've actually found the Assyrian community too. One of them's dating an Assyrian girl that's based out of the area.
Wow.
So that to me is kind of a cultivating of the culture without actually saying anything about Assyrian or forcing the language on them or doing any of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
It's done through economics and competence.
Absolutely.
Right? They're competent, which is how our society is built on competence. It's not built on power. Bridges are built by competence, right? And so it's built, like Paul's saying, by competence and by the economics of it. and it has to be self-driving. And so even at, when we had our startup, we had, I think, four Assyrians that, there might have been five.
Oh yeah,
We got someone a sales job. There were someone who transitioned from being non-technical into doing quality assurance. Now they're an engineer.
Wow.
We had another guy who helped with the Assyrian app. They put that on their resume. And so
these are young guys too. Like some of them.
gals.
Yeah.
And how did you pay them? Like, where did that money come from to be able to employ these people into their jobs? And
so some we paid, and others we set the expectation. Hey, this is they were genuinely interested in the work that we were doing, and they saw that we needed help. Right, we're trying to create a tech space for a micro niche community.
Yeah.
Right, it's fine to develop something for a niche because you have an audience and you have a market for it. Our niche is a micro niche, right? So if you can get 20,000 people to download an app, but no one will pay for an app, and and so they understood that this was mutually beneficial in regards to, hey, they need some resume experience, they need some skills. No one will hire them because they don't have those skills yet. So that's how it worked out.
That's amazing.
And we had little Easter eggs in our apps. So like we have one app called Ishtar Games, which is a kids game that has like about animals, and then you're a penguin that's jumping, and we made it's an edutainment app. Kids don't know that they're learning Surit, but they are, and we even contracted our cousin to do the music in the app. But so that app has an Easter egg in the high score page.
What does that mean, an Easter egg?
It's kind of a special thing that you can discover.
Ah, okay.
Like kind of like the Tesla car has some hidden features.
Yeah.
So we put in some Easter eggs in our app that would actually thank the people who worked with us. So little
cool.
tokens like that.
That's really cool.
Yeah. We created a lot of services for Assyrians. Like there was the Assyrian app, right, which had events,
A little social
Proverbs,
network inside
social network. It even had there was the old blogging or kind of those forums sections. Sargon created this section where people could actually message each other from the app.
Did you find that people were using that a lot?
People were using it. Yeah, people were definitely using it.
Nice. So to go back a little bit, to conclude your college experience, you were in Santa Clara already, so you stayed within the Bay Area, Silicon Valley in particular. Paul, you finished up with UCLA, got a job at Cisco, and made your way into Silicon Valley. Both of you as brothers ended up staying here. You were at Cisco. What did you end up doing once you went straight into a master's program at Santa Clara?
Yes, and coming back to the Bay Area was really interesting for me because I learned just how I love our culture, right? And I loved everything about it growing up. Coming back to the Bay Area was a wake-up call because the friends I developed, they would poke fun at me in a nice way, but I could tell it was hitting home. And I would say words in Assyrian, and then they would say, "Oh, you say that word that way? That's so cute." Because I wasn't confident in the way that I spoke the language at the time. So our parents, I think, did a good job of raising us, made sure we went to the right schools. It's just as the four brothers, we kind of lost touch with the language. So coming back to the Bay Area was a good wake-up call.
Now, within the household, was it a type of situation where your parents spoke to you in Assyrian and you answered back in English, or were they also at that time speaking to you in English and you were replying back in English?
They spoke to us in Assyrian and we replied back in Nintendo and PlayStation. So it's like, it was kind of Assyrian-English. I don't know how you'd call it. Like, hey, production beta, kazinochon sat 5:30, just kind of mix it together.
Right.
I was working, and then I had my company was at the time they were paying for the master's programs, but even then I broke that contract. So the thing is, if you had your company pay for your master's degree, there's a stipulation that you need to stay on a year or two. Mm-hmm. So I was at IBM at the time. I traveled with them to China and whatnot, but you're in the Bay Area. This is where startups are at, and so just kind of made the decision, hey, I need to focus on the long term and the direction that I want to go on, as opposed to the tactical play of having them repay.
Sargon's a startup guy.
Okay.
He likes small companies. He likes the grind. He loves kind of that ownership side of things of, hey, it's going to grow. It has a potential to either go IPO or to get bought out.
So I feel, when you say ownership, I think what you're trying to say is extreme ownership. So
what is the difference?
I think one is, if you notice it, like if you go to a gym or a coffee shop and like the barista is this is an example. Like the barista is going out of their way to make sure that the customers or guests are having a nice experience. Okay. They're making sure the place is clean, even though that's not their job.
So they're going above and beyond.
They're acting like they own the thing and it will succeed. And so with Assyrians, it's like we have a lot working against us if you really think about it. So if you're able-bodied and you're healthy and you have a mind, then God has blessed you. There's really no excuse not to have an itch to go out and be a positive member of society, be it in the Assyrian community or just a good citizen and make a good name for Suraya. So yeah, like Paul's saying, I do have an itch and an inkling I gravitate towards kind of the smaller companies where you can play a larger role. And that's why we started a company too.
So that's a perfect transition into what you all started. So when you two started working together, it was with Base 2 apps?
That's correct.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about how that idea came into fruition.
Okay, so I think if we rewind a second, when we both lived in the Bay Area, we both knew our Assyrian could use some work. So we took a class at the Marnarse Melpana school. Our teacher was Rabbi Mishael,
who's also your relative.
Who's also our uncle, that's right. And so we took Assyrian level 1. It was us and a bunch of 10-year-old kids who we kind of had to make sure no one bullied each other, and then they'd gang up on us, but we were pretty firm with them too. And there we learned, hey, this content is amazing, but these kids are Angry Birds kids, right? They grew up in a culture where every 10 minutes they have a commercial, or when they're waiting in line or when they're waiting at the restaurant, the parents give them the iPad and they're playing Angry Birds. And so the first thing that came to mind is, hey, maybe we can occupy that mind share and give them something entertaining that's Assyrian. Wow. And just not teach them anything, but just spark their interest, right? Be a Kindle to that just be a Kindle for them. And then if they have the interest, they can go learn the books, take the classes, which is the right way to learn, right? Be immersed. And so we started messing around with some apps and we realized, hey, we're good at this. Paul's got a good eye for design. I could handle the technical side of things, and then that kind of leveraged into bigger ideas.
What incentivized you to want to come to Marnarse school and learn how to read and write? Because that's a Friday night. You two were young adults. You could have done anything else, but you decided to commit or dedicate your time every Friday to come to this class. What drew you to it?
We weren't our parents didn't give us a trophy for every time we did something, and when you had to earn what you had, right? And so you weren't necessarily given a trophy for third place or second place. The question, you might have got one, but then the question that your dad would say when you got home is, what happened, right? So there was a level of authenticity that we grew up with. And so when you're out and about with friends and you're trying to do cool stuff and hang out and whatnot, and people ask you about who you are or if you know the language, and then you have that twinge where, you know what, I'm not 100% confident what I am or if I can speak the language correctly. For me, at least, there was a level of hey, I need to be authentic with who I am. And there was
I was just embarrassed. I mean,
why was that?
You don't know the alphabet of your languch, but yet you're so proud of saying you're Assyrian.
And I think
right?
that goes back to...
Do you feel less Assyrian because of that?
I think that does go back to the authenticity, because you're saying you're Assyrian on the surface. Oh, I'm Assyrian. But then at the end there, you're embarrassed.
What does that mean? You're trying to figure out what does that actually mean? How am I actually doing anything that's actually Assyrian outside of just being, right? Because technically we're American, right? So we needed to get connected back in with the culture somehow, with the ethnicity, right? And the ethnicity is preserved through the language, and the church does a good job with it. And then there's also a social responsibility on your own end to do. And I remember listening to one of the earlier podcasts with Manawa, and I think a question was asked for him, hey, there's a lot of the younger generation that's drifting away from the church. Why is that? And his message wasn't one of, oh yeah, we need to try to go and get them back. And it's no, you have a responsibility on your own to want to go back and do that. So that to me is important, right? If you really want something, you'll go out of your way to go and get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I always look at human incentives, right? What really drives people to do certain things. And so for us, when you said pay it forward earlier, Paul, about hiring Assyrians, and you recognize there was mutual benefit. Like you said, language is important to maintain an ethnicity. I would also say language is important to expand your mind, right? Language changes the way you think. It shapes the way you think. Different languages, like in Greek, they had different words for love, right? So there's different levels of thought that go in when you're learning the constructs of a language that have been passed down through generations. And so I'd say a selfish reason to learn the Assyrian language is it's going to make you cooler, it's going to make you smarter, and if anything, it's a story or some kind of tidbit of authenticity that you can contribute to your friends. So I think there's a selfish reason to learn it as well. Like, you could be embarrassed, you could be shy about it, but at the end of the day, learning any new language, be it JavaScript, HTML, or Assyrian, it'll open your mind. Like, the German language is very structured language, and it's a complex language. Paul and I both learned German, okay?
Like fluently?
The instructor was cute at an all-guy school, so she was...
That was the icon the other day. I wouldn't say much.
If you think about German, you think about like BMW, or like you think German engineering, right? So when people say German engineering, I think part of that can be attributed to the way their language structure is, in the same way that people say French are good diplomats. Well, there's certain nuances in the French language that's very beautiful. All right, it might sound effeminate, but the French are very good with words. They're very charismatic, and so they make for good diplomats. I would say you see traces of that in Farsi and then even Iraq, the harsh language and whatnot. So
what do you think the Assyrian language speaks? Like, what do you think that portrays to people when it's spoken?
I think we're a diaspora, so it sounds very different. And then we have a couple variations. Like, when I went to... So one
Eastern, Western.
Ma'arwoyo and Medenche. And so, when I went to Torabdin and Mardin in southern Turkey and stayed at a monastery, like, I had a newfound respect for the Western dialect, our brothers who speak the Western dialect. And so that's why it was really important to us to incorporate that into the dictionary, into Sargon says, to have both an Eastern and a Western dialect and the English phonetic and the audio. So I think, what does it sound like when I hear it? When I hear it, what do I hear?
Words that are impossible for other people
to
pronounce.
What, are you clearing your throat? No, this is the language Jesus spoke in. Huh?
I love it when friends text me in phonetic suited on the phone. They'll text me be English, but it's suited. Like, they'll say dachit or mudi vadit, and they'll write it in English. But I love those text conversations. Like, there's just something about it. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Our technology is adapting to our speak.
So we would also, after all that, we would go to hackathons. Hackathons are these events where companies sponsor these events where you create a service on top of whatever their service is, right?
So an example.
An example could be immersion. Immersion creates haptic feedback. So if you ever play the Xbox and you feel the vibration in the controller, that's owned by a company called Immersion. So Immersion has what they call an API, an application programming interface, where it allows software to talk to other software. And we said, hey, they brought their software to the hackathon and said, hey, developers, create whatever you think you can create on top of this service. And so we'd go to a lot of these hackathons where these companies they wanted people to bring their ideas to the table and start implementing. And you implement everything in a 24-hour period. So they bring pizza and the most unhealthy food possible to these events, and you basically spend the night just working, hacking out an idea, and then you present it the next day. So you get a bunch of these developers, mostly guys, and they literally hack. The next morning they smell like crap, and then, they present the idea in front of a group, and then at the end of it, there's a voting, or the judges decide who the winners are. We went to a few of these things, and one of the first types of contests that we entered in was a Verizon contest. So Verizon had this app store that they were launching called Power Your Apps.
VCast.
Yeah, it was called the VCast App Store.
What year are we talking here?
2011 or 12.
Around there.
Yeah. And so they had on their custom phones, or on those phones, they had the VCast App Store, and they wanted to generate developers to publish apps on the App Store. So one way to do it was to create this contest. It was monetary. So if you win the whole thing, it was like $50,000. So we came up with an idea called Color Connect. Color Connect, it was, at that time, it's actually pretty ingenious if you think about it. It was an emoji-based app.
Oh, before emojis were emojis?
Before emojis were a big thing, yeah. So our thing was a penguin. So you basically take a penguin, and the color of its belly represented how you were feeling.
Or your relationship
status. Your relationship status. The background color behind the penguin was your mood.
Okay.
So, I'm single and I'm feeling happy. Like that was, you could post that to your social networks. You could text it to people, email it.
So people would have an idea based off of your color, both front and back, what you're feeling and what your status is.
Yeah. At a lot of time, we had a lot of people download it thinking that it was like a dating app indicator.
And the penguins had, you had different kinds of penguins. Like one was a student penguin. The other was working out.
Okay.
The other was like a sleepy one. The other one was sick.
And how did you even think about that?
Who hates penguins?
Yeah, penguins. If you say penguin, you're even smiling right now. So it's one of those things we thought, hey, it would resonate with people. So we submitted this app to the App Store. We went through this whole contest, and much controversy later, we ended up winning the People's Choice Award. And so we ended up winning, what was it, $25,000 from it?
Right.
It was a lot of money. And so we used that money to fund the rest of the projects that we were working on. So we ended up bootstrapping projects by building on top of other money that we've been making. So then we ended up going to this hackathon held by CTIA. Don't ask me what the acronym means because I forgot. And we entered as a team into multiple prizes or kind of contests with the different vendors. One of the vendors was Immersion, where we ended up creating this app called Vibe. And Vibe lets you set custom vibrations for incoming calls and text messages. Mm-hmm. So at that time, I don't know if you remember the old Motorola Razr phones and those flip phones, where people customize the audible ringtones, right? So they try to record a ringtone and apply it to their phone. But when the smartphones came around, people didn't have their phones set on loud. It was always on vibrate or silent. So whenever they get that little buzz, they don't know who's calling them or texting them. So we're like, hey, there's an opportunity where
to personalize it.
So you'll feel who's calling. So if your husband calls you, you set them as a heartbeat vibration, you feel that vibration. Whereas other people, you could set them as something else. You're like, oh, I'm not going to answer them, right? That was one app. It won a prize. It gave us a partnership with Immersion later on down the road.
Which is huge, right?
It was huge. It led to other things, though, and I'll kind of get into that in a little bit. But it gave us a partnership with Motorola, which then opened the doors for us to travel the world and connect with Google. So at the end of the day, that app, ended up getting featured by Google on Google's App Store. So we were getting, it was like 20 or 30,000 downloads a day. And mind you, it was a free app, but it was freemium. So you download it, you can pay for an upgrade. Mm-hmm. So it all started at a hackathon. There's other services like that started at the hackathon too. We had, and we ended up winning some laptops from there too, which...
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah.
The ones that were, there was, if we're trying to tie this back to the Assyrian stuff, there was one called TechCrunch Disrupt. So we had done a lot of hackathons. We were pretty successful. There was one called TechCrunch Disrupt, which was actually where Dropbox and Mint.com started. Trello.
I used to work for Mint.com.
I used to work for Mint.com. So Trello, Yammer, all of them got bootstrapped and started at TechCrunch Disrupt, which is a conference, typically in SF, San Francisco, and TechCrunch hosts it, and you have all these startups that have a startup battlefield, and they go pitch their idea. I think at that hackathon, we didn't have a killer idea, but it was very important to us to pitch the Assyrian app just to get the word out. So we went to a hackathon, TechCrunch Disrupt, one of the biggest ones you can go to, with the sole purpose of just spreading the the word about Assyrians. We knew.
We have a picture of that too.
Yeah, we knew we knew at that one this thing isn't gonna win, but it was more important. Hey, well, let's use that platform to pitch an app that we built, which is a platform.
And what was your audience like there? How many people?
It was a worldwide audience. Yeah. I mean, it was live streamed, but the audience there was maybe like 400 or 500 people. I mean,
I would say more. I mean, it was kind of the SF like barn auditorium.
You know where they have like the fireside chats with like Mark Zuckerberg, or it's that auditorium, but they repurpose it for the hackathon demos.
So when sometimes people are even too embarrassed to talk about being Assyrian and saying what Assyrians are, you guys are like, hey, let's take this opportunity to then let this audience and whoever was watching on live stream to know about Assyrians, and then to also introduce the app.
Yeah, and the way we did it is we had some interesting features in there, and we're like, well, maybe these are killer features. Let's talk about the features. And the undertone of this whole thing is that this app is the Assyrian app.
I see.
So to kind of draw
something that people would
in.
relate
Exactly.
and draw in, and then the underlying. Okay.
Yeah, that was the Assyrian.
The Assyrian app.
Yeah, the Assyrian app.
And what was featured on that?
That was the first time that platform was created. So it was like a mini social network for people within your own culture. So if you're a tribe or you're I don't know, a culture, a micro community.
So would it be like location as well?
It had location and all that, messaging, location,
language basics,
events,
the events. Yeah. Then we ended up adding more to it. So Sargon ended up adding like the messaging service, so the forums. We ended up adding the service Qurbi to it. We even had a site for Assyrian recipes. Where we were trying to crowdsource recipes from the community. So, we were normally chased around with a wooden spoon rather than actually cooking with it. So we weren't the greatest of cooks, so we wanted to crowdsource them from the community and try to get people to put them on the site.
Very cool.
Yeah. And
so Base 2 apps wasn't anything that was particular to Assyrians or non-Assyrians. It was a mixture of both.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did contract work and creative work. The contract work, we actually built an app for the Stanislaus County Fair. We also built, what do they call it?
Chambers of
Commerce.
They need apps to kind of serve as a billboard. So the app is a billboard.
So you guys were the go-to to do that.
Yeah. So what we did is we repurposed the platform that we built for the Assyrian app, which is a micro community app, and made it kind of templatize it and make it generic enough where someone could go in and configure everything, even the look and feel of the content, and it was super optimized for that. So that's how we paid our guys. That's how we generated money. That kind of contract work, I'd say that wasn't the most exciting thing in the world for us. It's how we paid our guys and how we were able to then just kind of come up with our own creative as a result of that. Yeah. That was the idea, at least.
Yeah. I know we went just into Sargon Says, but I want to know before that, how did Sargon Says even start? Because I know that online, and I don't know if it came before or after, there's AssyrianLanguages.org, but I know that's like a part of the database that's used for the Sargon Says. So what did you see was missing, and what led you to want to create Sargon Says?
Yeah, so again, it's a dictionary is built off of a community. So the community that existed before was AssyrianLanguages.org, which is an amazing site. Okay, amazing site. It's a dictionary maintained by this guy in France. And then there's Lishani.com, which is also a nice site. And then there's a really good one for the Western dialect called Sfarmele.de. It's a German site.
Okay. How do you spell that?
SFARMELE. .de. Okay, so there's 3 sites out there. There's not one site that all sites are awesome. Okay, what I sensed that was needed was the most important thing that was needed besides having a mobile friendly interface where everyone's on a little over 70% of the users are on their mobile devices. So it has to be mobile friendly. And then the most important thing is data quality. So when you search for something, do the results match your intent? We grew up in a world where Google knows what you're typing. So as you're typing, it's completing the sentence for you.
Yeah.
There's no reason why we shouldn't have something like that as well. So when when I used those other sites, I noticed there were certain things that were lacking. Like if you search for the color red, R-E-D, you want to find out the Assyrian word, right? Smuqa. So you expect the first result to be smuqa. But because some of the way those databases were built, when you search for the color red,
It's true, yeah.
smuqa is the 40th result.
Redwood trees.
Yeah. I'm like, what? Actually, you have to sift through all that,
it's
right?
interesting that you say redwood trees. You expect to see related terms, be redwood trees, red beets, things with the color red. You don't expect the first result to be the English word of shredded, because shredded contains the letters R-E-D. Okay? So there's little things that you can do when you're doing language constructs and heuristics to do pattern matching. So the key to a dictionary is you want to make sure that the first result matches the user's intent. Sometimes there are results where the user knows, hey, this is a questionable word, so it might be the second or third result. And an example of that would be, I'm trying to think of a word that has two meanings. Right.
In Assyrian or
there.
English?
Or
so you could say there, but that's more of a grammatical kind of punctuation thing. The word would be.
And are you talking about how it's said or how it's spelled? Heard and heard?
I'll give an example, kind of. I'll give an example. An example is book, right? Mm-hmm. Book is, we'd say ktaba or chtaba, right? So the first result on Sargon says is chtaba, okay? But book can also mean to book a room. Okay. Right? You're reserving something, right? So a user is understanding if you present them with, hey, to book a chtava, or ktava is number one result, and maybe number two is to book a room. So they're understanding of that. But the goal for Sargon says is I wanted users to trust it, and I wanted them to go to some place that was almost like Urban Dictionary. They could search for curse words and find things in there. So if you look at the trending, there's some questionable words in there. Now, there's a couple that we filter out, but for the most part, they're
it's user generated.
Yeah, and so
people are always curious about those words, anyways, in any language.
And the beautiful thing about Sargon says is it was. Imagine having like an army of crawlers who are scraping the internet for results. Okay. Sargon says does that, but it does that for the Eastern and Western sites. And the reason the rankings are so good is it actually compares the Eastern and Western dialects from the different sites, as well as some kind of string matching and pattern matching to determine your intent, to have such a high quality site. And even when you do that, it's not enough, right? Because users are on their phone, they're going to mistype things. Mm-hmm. So even though you have the right data and the right matching, people are going to screw up and type the wrong thing. They're going to do misspellings. So one way to counter that is you give them a drop down of, as they're typing, they see suggestions. And at least for the suggestions, we know those results exist. And then for the ones that don't exist, there's also related terms. So even if you mistype something, you'll see kind of like the Google I'm feeling lucky, right? Did you mean this? And so there are related terms. So I think users like it when you kind of hold their hand and kind of walk them through a process. And so I think that's why Someone Says is actually so successful.
Yeah. The nice thing I learned about the dictionary you created, the people who use it aren't just Assyrians. So it's, if people are in relationships or kind of married to non-Assyrians, the non-Assyrians actually want to learn the language. So they actually are trying to find ways to learn on their own. This is an awesome service where they just type in hi or I love you or certain words or phrases, and they're given the Eastern, Western, and the phonetic pronunciation of these things.
You know how I know that? Because I usually go on sargonsays.com on my phone.
Nice.
But I went online as I was doing my research here, and you have like the trending words.
Yeah, exactly.
So then I knew through that this has to be then something that non-Assyrians use as well, because there's words like phrases, I love you, I hate you, whatever it is, happy birthday, Merry Christmas, hello, how are you, all these things. Yes, of course Assyrians want to know, sure, but more so non-Assyrians. So it is an app, I'm sure, that is used for both.
Right. Yeah.
What kind of traffic do you get, like numbers wise?
Per day, it's a couple hundred users per day searching. I keep trends on there of the number of searches and whatnot. What's interesting is the United States is the top country. So I can show you the analytics if you'd like. United States is the top country. The second country is Australia. Okay, and I know there's a school out there that uses it as a reference.
Okay.
The third country is Canada. So again, English-speaking countries, and then
I know I was a part of an Assyrian class there where they encourage Sargon says.
No way. So I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah.
That drives a lot of this, and that's why the quality is extremely important to me. That it's of high quality, and then fourth and fifth, kind of rounding it out, are Germany and UK. So even though United States is the number one country of the app, the number one city is not a U.S. city. The top two cities are actually Sydney and Melbourne, Australia. So I've never met the Aussie Assyrians, but I got much love for them. Okay, so those cities are rocking it. And then the third city is Chicago.
Okay.
Skokie's in there as well. So maybe because of the breakdown of Chicago and Skokie.
Sure.
San Jose's up there. But it's funny, when you look at the analytics, you can see where the Assyrian diasporas are situated just by looking at the analytics.
That's pretty cool.
So it's a way to see, like you see Chicago, you see Phoenix. I think Sacramento's in 15. So it's...
You were talking about a concentration on quality and being able to pull data from all of these different websites and areas. So I think because of that, would you argue that like Sargon Says is probably one of the more, if not the most popular search engine if you're looking to do English to Assyrian?
So I'd say the highest fidelity one, if you really are an expert and you want to find out true roots and whatnot, then you should use AssyrianLanguages.org for the Eastern dialect. For the Western dialect, you should use svarmele.de. But if you want a dictionary that just works, you're not a scholar, you don't necessarily care about the etymology, even though Sargon Says will show you. You just want something that's mobile friendly and the first result matches your intent, then Sargon Says is for that. So I think there's place for all of them.
Here's the use case. You're in the car, you're with your spouse, and you're debating about what the word is for bridge or star. It's an easy way to be able to just go in, type it, and get that feedback right away.
So it's anonymous. There's no user login or anything like that. But what I do is I do watch for the data quality to try to improve it. So some of the things that we watch for to improve it is we realize people are mistyping things. So let's try to correct that. And then after search results, and then we notice more searches. So then now you're getting more searches, and then you see, wow, people aren't using it as a dictionary. It evolved. They were using it as a dictionary. Now they're using it for phrases and translations. Some people said they're typing, "Will you marry me?" They're typing that in there, and I'm realizing, man, I don't have that in there, right? And so
this is pressure, Sargon. You gotta get that.
I was honored by it, right? So the dictionary has morphed into, so the phrases are heavily used, and then our uncle Rabbi Michel, he has a book that does Assyrian names. So when you get married in the church, they'll give you this book which has names and their meaning. Like Edessa, if you search for Edessa on Sargon Says, you'll see how it's spelled. You'll see the naming of Edessa. So it's morphed into, you can search for names, and then now people are using it as a translator. So that's the next evolution of it. And also an Alexa skill. It'd be nice to ask Alexa and then have it be powered through Sargon Says.
Ooh.
I think that would be a nice...
What would it take to do something like that?
The biggest thing there isn't necessarily the technical aspect. The biggest thing there is so Alexa can read the English phonetic. Like the phonetic of Shlama would be Shlama.
Yeah.
But having Alexa repeat that wouldn't be the most correct thing. She might say Shlama, right? Now if she said Shlomo, it's okay for our Western friends. But so what we'd have to do is, so there's a group called Bet Kanu, Akkad Sadi. He has he's a hero of mine, but I contracted them out to do a lot of the recordings. So Sargon Says not only has the English phonetic, the Western dialect, the Eastern dialect, but it also has recordings. So if someone is Nakhraya or they're just trying to learn the language, they can hit play and it will play it for them. Now that was a challenge. So I contracted them out because I wanted to support other Assyrians, right? And so they did a really good job on the Western. And then I also asked them, hey, for those Western terms like Shlomo, also send me a recording for the Eastern. But you notice there were little nuances in the way it was said. Like it might have been Shlama, like just slightly different. So that was an awesome experience working with them and getting them to knowing that Sargon Says is built by the community, really.
Yeah.
Right. And so every now and then Paul will message me, hey, this word is wrong, or hey, the site's down.
A lot of people try to take down Assyrian sites.
Oh, man. Our Assyrian app site I've had to build so much security around that site. The AssyrianApp.com, and it's IPs that are coming from Turkey. Yeah. Oh, they've taken us down. They haven't taken on Sargon Says, but they took down the Assyrian app a couple times, and then we've had to put in certain security rules and whatnot to counter that. So Paul always said, can you just hack them? But yeah, I work at tech companies and whatnot. The AssyrianApp.com, people try to hack that all the time. They'll try to log in as Paul. They try to log in as Sargon, admin, whatever it is. They try to hack that thing. And so, yeah, it's part of being Assyrian.
Yeah, I guess so, huh?
I'm honored by it. I'm like, yeah, try to take it down. There was another thing. Google had so you were talking about the trends real quick.
Yeah.
So Google had a commercial during the Super Bowl this year. Google Translate.
Yeah.
And so I wrote this down. Google, the top 3 translated terms are how are you, thank you, and I love you. And then if you go to Sargon Says and look at the trends, we added phrases later on, but they're
pretty much the same.
Hello, I love you, how are you? So I don't know if Google took it from Sargon Says. It was cool that it was universal.
That's amazing. So with Sargon Says and any of the other Assyrian related apps, you have a website right now that's called AssyrianApps.com. AssyrianApp.com. Yeah. And so that's sort of where they're housed. I know you were mentioning to me earlier that some of the apps that are on there, like Ishtar Games and Assyrian ABCs and stuff, they're not in the App Store right now. Is there hopes for them to be back on?
I think everything is a learning experience, right? So all those apps led to learning and to understanding of what works with people, what doesn't work with people. And so that
What did you learn?
Well, I mean, we learned a lot through the Assyrian app that people were interested in language and proverbs. So that's what part of that reason paved the way to start on creating SargonSays.com, right? And so the Assyrian ABCs was a reflection of all the schoolwork that we did and saying, hey, how do we educate the youth with the language?
How do we give them a fun experience?
A fun experience, a fun experience. Because if you go into some of these classes, these kids aren't really, reading a black and white textbook doesn't really reflect
and
actual
it's subliminal
learning.
Too. Even the music in those apps is Zorna Dawuda, or there's like Chigga, it's all.
That's pretty cool.
There's a rhyme and a reason behind every
These little subtle things.
Yeah, and I think you talk with teachers where people learn based off of audible, visual, and interaction.
Kinetic,
right?
Touching.
So with an app, it was easy to be able to kind of entertain that with a kid. So yeah, I mean that all those things built up to something bigger, right? So even though we don't support those apps anymore, it built up to something larger, and it also evangelized, kids learning how to do or to want to develop in code or to get into product management or do any of that type of stuff on the tech side.
Right? To answer your question though, yes, I'm gonna bring those apps back to life. Ishtar Games was my favorite one.
What was that about?
I can show it to you if you want to see it. It's 3 mini games in one. One of them is we repurposed the penguin, and you're a penguin with like a little car. Do you want me to show it to you?
You're a penguin with a Assyrian laptop.
And what is an Assyrian
or an Assyrian
laptop?
license plate?
You see how he has stickers on his laptop? Yeah. There was an Assyrian Lamassu.
So this game, Ishtar Games, you can't download it, but I'm gonna reinvigorate this one. So there's an animals section. There's a colors section. So in the colors, we have a very famous voice narrator on this one. Okay, and then so she's saying if it's too annoying, you can turn that off, and then you can change the melody, right? You can even go to Zorna, and then you can change to more Chigga or whatnot.
I think this was the only app of yours that I didn't end up downloading.
And then within this, there's a mini game called Weeble. Okay, I'll let you try it out. So pick one of those characters. She's selecting a penguin.
And she's using the accelerant. She's shifting her phone left and right to be able to jump and grab Assyrian coins.
So what we...
This is so fun.
So you'll collect Assyrian flags.
Oh no! I missed the flag. Damn it.
And so what we learned from this game was there were little experiences that we saw in terms of Firaz Jattu came up to me one day and he said, Sargon, I have
30 points. Okay, yes.
Firaz came up to me and says, Sargon, my kid is 2 or 3 years old at the time, and he said at night we'll just kind of hang out and we'll sit on his bed and look at the ceiling and he'll just ask me random questions. And he goes, my kid asked me and I need to ask you, he said, Daddy, in that penguin game, when you're jumping with the penguin, does he reach Mshicha? Does he see Jesus at the end of it?
Yeah, I wasn't ready for all that.
Yeah. And so to me that was like, wow, you just captured a kid's attention. Right? And our cousin Adriana, she has a son named Isaiah. Every time he sees me, and it pains me right now, we're trying to port the game to work again on the latest App Store updates. He asked me for the penguin game. That is his favorite game.
Awesome.
So I think what we learned is that you can, even if you touch one person, then I think that kid had an experience with his father, where they were lying in bed and yeah, there's no money in these games. But Paul and I have been able to use those skills in our day job, right? So we've been able to repurpose those things. But having an experience where a child is now having a moment with their parent, or even when our cousin's son is pulling out my leg, can I play the penguin game? And it's not Angry Birds, it's the Assyrian game.
Mm-hmm.
That's
powerful.
It's a nice feeling. It's a nice feeling.
What else is on the AssyrianApp.com? So you have some of these apps that you hope to be able to have on the App Store again. You have Sargon Says. Talk to me a little bit about Qurbi.com and what the hope is for that. Is it still inactive?
I maintain it just to make sure that out of respect for the businesses that are on there. But Qurbi is like Yelp for Assyrians. And that's all it is. You go to it, it looks just like Yelp. I think the coolest part of Qurbi that I'm most proud of is people have input landmarks in there. Mm-hmm. So if you go to Qurbi and you look at SF, you'll actually see the cathedral, Grace Cathedral, where there's
I remember. I looked on that, and the stairs, right?
The stairs, the Ashurbanipal Paul trophy statue. Yeah. It's a trophy in my eyes. But so I think having it continue from that regard would be good. It's a Yelp for Assyrian landmarks and businesses.
The concept there is more of, when you go someplace new, chances are if you found out that there was an Assyrian place, you'd want to support it. And so Qurbi gave you that opportunity. If you're visiting Chicago or if you're visiting San Jose, where are the Assyrian places around me so I can support them? It keeps that dollar within the community and supports that side of things. And so as a diaspora, we don't have, a central community. We don't have a car company. We don't have, a cell phone making company. We don't have a lot of these things. A lot of what we have today are these restaurants, these mom and pop owned businesses, and some of these, these monuments, right? And that's why you see people being really prideful when they go and find the steps in San Francisco and take a picture with it, right? It gives them that pride. And so with Qurbi, it gives people an opportunity to discover Assyrian business around them. That way it keeps the dollar within the community.
Yeah. And plus, I think so often when people are visiting somewhere, I think it would be so cool for them to be like, I had no idea that there was this Assyrian-owned restaurant or whatever it is that is Assyrian-based. And so being able to go on that and to see that is pretty cool.
That's the beauty of technology and the beauty of having proven concepts already out there, right? Could you imagine an Assyrian Uber? Could you imagine...
Hubert.
Yeah, Uber. There you go. I mean, could you imagine, I remember a concept of an Assyrian Facebook was out there, but could you imagine these tech services where you can just piggyback off of all the trial and error that's already happened in the Silicon Valley?
Yeah.
Well, and even in Qurbi, there was when we created it, we put in a feature that we knew. I know I could build the thing, but I'm not a sales guy, right? And so we needed an army of people kind of adding businesses to this. So at the time, we actually charged businesses if they want a premium listing. That's no longer the case. But what it had built into it is if you were a high school student or a college student and you knew of businesses and you got them to onboard, you would get a commission out of that. So that was all built into it. And it was a very generous commission. I didn't care about making money off this thing.
You're saying was past tense. Can people still do that?
They can still do that. It would require a bit of onboarding. Like I said, this one's more passively maintained.
Okay. You'd say of the things that are on Assyrian app, the things that are more active is the SargonSays.com.
Sargon Says is definitely the most active. I'd say the second one is Rabbi Michal. He wrote quite a few books, and 2 of them he's published as PDFs that people can download.
And what are those books so that listeners can...
One of the books, so if you go to AssyrianApp.com/books, one of the books is called The Book of My Language. It's basically the language level 1 book that he's compiled over, 25 years. This is his language book, and it's a great way to learn the language. I wouldn't say it's meant for someone who is trying to just speak the Arab beats, but it's an awesome resource. The second one is really cute. It's a book for couples that just got married. And it's a book of baby names in Assyrian, the English equivalent, and then the meaning is the meaning behind the name. Like, I think Arbella means 4 gods. Yeah. And Erbil has actually 4 corners also. Like, so there's nuances like that are very interesting to pick up on. And
what I find so cool about this is that I think so often with Assyrians, like we're constantly looking for that our resources to build, whether it's our vocabulary or build up our knowledge. So whether it's like with Assyrian names, so being able to create these opportunities for people to be able to do that creates more access to these things. When people have more access to them, they probably are more likely to use them and to implement them, whether it be names, whether it be adding to their vocabulary or being incentivized or encouraged to learn their language because there's easier opportunities now than there once was.
Yeah, and I think that's an awesome point. I think you hit it right on the head. And then one other avenue for that is we wanted to give more avenues for people to find things, but very selfish reason for creating Sargon Says. Sargon Says was created in the winter of 2016. In the summer of 2016, so a couple months before that, ISIS invaded Iraq. And that was a huge wake-up call. And at the time, I felt a little powerless, right? So they've attacked our home country. They're destroying our physical artifacts. Why are they destroying They want to rewrite history, right? Assyrians didn't exist. Paganism did not exist. And so, we did the rally thing. We went to posted about it and whatnot, and that was donated. But after that, there's this kind of 2-week period where it kind of fizzes down a little bit until the next rally. And there was a lot of the whole like, woe is me, this is happening to my people. So Sargon Says, the reason I wanted to get it out rapidly is I wanted to preserve the language, right? And I wanted to send a message to those who are against our language existing, to say, hey, we're strong, and I want to stand on the shoulders of Google, of Microsoft Azure, and Amazon. And you might be able to destroy some physical artifacts. You might be able to do that for a period of time, but you can't take down what these tech giants have done. And through whatever SEO and search engine optimization and whatnot, I can create a platform that will outshine, create a rose in the desert to help rebuild. We come from a place and a culture where there were a lot of hardships, but our parents always instilled in us, you don't woe is me. You pick up after yourself and you become a contributing member of society. So it's not that we look forward to an obstacle, it's just we see a challenge. Okay, you could take it one of 2 ways. How do you make positive out of that? How do you make something good from there? Because I think growing up Assyrian, something that works against us is hey, I've been in genocide. Maybe the physical impact isn't there, but definitely we see the impact it had on our parents. Yeah. They've been rerouted. Yeah. We don't have a homeland, right? So, we don't have a team in the Olympics, to root for. So then you realize, okay, shoot, like people have a vested interest in taking down our language. That inspired some hate and some rage, right? And so I'd say a lot of that actually fueled. So thank you. I hate to say that, but you've just inspired a bunch of people, and there are long-term effects. I think if we're smart about it, like the Huidaya were, after World War I, creating a homeland, then I think it's been done before. The recipe is there, and I think we have to take things in stride and always kind of breathe through it, namaste it, and then and then what can you do? Be positive and create a solution, right? And if you can work with others, great. But if you got to steamroll your way through something, sometimes you have to do that too.
Yeah. I think if there's one takeaway from this, I'd like people to take away the fact that like you're empowered to do what you want and to actually go out there and do it.
Use your talent.
Right? Use your talent, spread the talent. There's no reason why someone being a Debbie Downer should stop you.
Taking off the tech hat, going into what you all do outside of work, outside of this AssyrianApp.com space, you both participate in races and triathlons and do some crazy shit. So how did that all begin? And is it just you two, or is it all the brothers that are into this?
For me, I like to sweat out my stress.
Okay.
Right. So I would, go running, get on a bike, go to a spin class, go work out, whatever. So, yeah, I do all these trainings. I'd go swimming in the mornings, and then finally I realized, hey, why don't I just train for an event, right? The training for the event gave me motivation to actually do the training. Like the event itself.
What was the first thing that you decided that you were going to enter in? Was it a race or was it?
It was what they call a sprint triathlon.
Okay.
So it's a shorter distance triathlon where you swim. I think it's like half a mile. You bike 20, and then you run a 5K. So 3.1 miles. So I'm going to do this. And mind you, I'd never done much swimming outside of our backyard pool. So I just looked on a website. It was like this half Ironman training for newbies, and so I tried to follow it.
Like perfect.
Yeah. So I stuck with it, and I liked it. I got a bug where I like the sweat, I like the creative thoughts that came out of these types of training, and the journey of actually training. The races themselves, to me, are fun. I'm not competing against anyone outside of myself, but it's more of the journey of the training that excites me, because I do get a lot of ideas out of it. I do clean out my body, I detox, I can think clearly. Right, because our day-to-day is actually pretty hectic. It's kind of, when you're managing teams, right, you have personal things, then you actually have work things to kind of accomplish. And so clearing your mind out of that is important, because it keeps you fresh, it keeps you driven. And we're in, sports growing up. So we always had this like athletic-driven mindset where, you won't let anything kind of block your way of getting to something. And so that mindset just kind of permeated into, for me, triathlons, for Sargon Spartan races.
But what happens when you're super tired from a long day at work, you had crazy things hit you that you weren't even expecting? Are you still motivated? Is that your motivation to sweat?
Here's the question I would ask. I would ask, and that's a tough one, because it can be tough, and you can be mentally and physically just exhausted.
Yes.
But I want you to tell me when the last time you regretted doing a workout.
For me, it's always listen to your body. If your body needs to rest, then just rest. But don't make an excuse not to do it.
And then, Sargon, what encouraged you to go into Spartan races?
I think similar things to Paul is... so I like to travel.
Yeah.
And I love hiking.
Where's the last place you traveled?
But Spartan race, for those that don't know, it's an obstacle course race. I do them competitively in the elite pro category.
Wow.
And so traveled all over the country for these things. To Breckenridge, Colorado, Salt Lake City,
West Virginia,
Chicago. I slept in my car at West Virginia to qualify for that was the National North American Championships to qualify for Worlds in Lake Tahoe.
And how many people are you competing against, just to kind of put into perspective?
So in the elite pro wave that goes off, there's probably only like 200 to 300 people in that wave, but out of the whole day, there's might be 20 to 30,000 people there. And so the the nice thing about Spartan, so even my work laptop is plastered with Spartan. And so why do I like Spartan? I think it provides me with an avenue to meet like-minded people who, when they see an obstacle, they don't freak out, right? You could climb a wall and your GPS watch falls, or your hands are so frozen that you can't throw a spear, and you can do two things in that moment. You can either freak out and be like, my hands are frozen, I'm gonna fall off every obstacle, or you can take a look out and be like, I'm at the top of a 8,000 foot mountain, and I have two legs that work. Like, everything out of everything in the world that could be working against me, like, wow, I can actually run up this mountain with these legs and they don't hurt, and it's beautiful, And so
perspective.
Yeah, Sargon's a little crazy.
In what way?
Well, so I think what he's trying to say is, like, for my birthday, they say, let's take you out to dinner, and I say, I got a better idea. Let's do something unconventional. And so then the last two birthdays, what we've had is all my brothers and cousins and friends, they're kind enough to show up. We host what's called Spartagon. So it's like, okay, so what we have is if you come to my garage, you'll see I have tires, I have sand weights, I have a spear throw.
Like, if we go in your garage right now,
see all that stuff. You'll see all that stuff. And so what we do is every birthday of mine, we've had 2 so far, so next year will be the 3rd annual, is you have to register. You get a waiver. So in case you die or something happens, I'm not liable. You get a wristband, and then you pick a team member, and then I give you guys the course. And the course is around the neighborhood, and they have to do a set of exercises. Paul's fiance and their cousin they're actually the current reigning world champions.
Wow.
So this is called Spartagon. Yeah. Nice. And so this year will be the 3rd annual. And there's a young woman from Los Angeles who's also big into Spartan races. So we'll see each other at every race, in Sacramento, Los Angeles, Chicago, Utah, Breckenridge. There was one race I took my dad out to, which was in Utah.
And he participated, or he was like cheerleading?
He participated. Even for him, being at Utah, that city was extreme. It was near Park City, Utah, which is like 9,000 feet elevation. It's hard even just to walk, right? So he showed up, which was awesome for him to do. And then at that race, that was a qualifying race, I made fake Assyrian tattoos. So there's a website where you can make temporary tattoos, and I wanted to look pretty hardcore. So I had my buddy put Assyrian on my back, so when people saw who they were behind an Assyrian.
Picture, or it didn't happen?
Pictures.
Okay, perfect.
I had pictures, and I had some Assyrian like arm tattoos and whatnot. Because a lot of the pro athletes, they get sponsorships by, let's say, like Beat Elite, or not Red Bull, but some of the other like Ascent Protein, and so they'll. Man, I should get paid for these sponsored plugs.
Is it tattoos, or do they wear it on their like clothing?
When you're doing a Spartan race, it's, for me at least, and for a lot of the other elites, it's easiest just to wear shorts or the tights and nothing on top, because you're gonna get in mud anyways.
Are you participating in these in the wintertime?
Yeah. So there's one in Lake
Tahoe.
Cold
climate.
So the most recent one was September 30th at Lake Tahoe, which was the World Championships, and after our heat, they had to shut down the water events because people were getting hypothermic, and the medics couldn't intake enough people. And here's all I'll say to that. There's a guy named Wim Hof who's from Norway. He's a big proponent of exposing your body to discomforts and cold for the purpose of strengthening his immunity. Okay, I know it sounds weird.
Is that a real thing?
It sounds weird. It involves cold showers. It involves like just like going outside in a t-shirt, like micro discomforts. Now, why would you do that, right? Yeah. He's saying we live in a society where people are getting soft, right? We're on our cell phones. Before, human interaction involved motion. When you wanted to go see someone, like you had to actually go see someone, and there was a physical activity involved.
Okay.
Now you can FaceTime or whatever. He's saying humans were becoming soft with our heaters and our ACs and all that. And so he has an analogy. He says in the United States, the best athletes, the U.S. Olympians train in Colorado because of the high elevation. Okay? So what he's trying to say there is the best athletes, the best runners, especially from Africa as well, are at high elevation. Now, at high elevation, there's discomfort in breathing, right? The air, because of the air pressure, the air is thinner. You don't get as much oxygen in your blood. So, but he's saying, we just took an example where there is an environmental discomfort, And that directly translates into a performance improvement. So he says it's not that far of a stretch to then take another environmental discomfort or a variable such as temperature and make it slightly uncomfortable, maybe expose yourself a little bit to the cold, where if your first reaction is not a shudder, where, oh, the cold water is hitting you and you freeze up, your first reaction is like, deep breath, be like, yeah, my skin is cold to the touch, right? The skin, it's cold, right? It feels cold, but your internal core is extremely warm. And he says that wards off. He's a little crazy, but...
Have you adopted that philosophy?
In a very minimal way. I'm kind of a cafeteria buffet, like I pick and choose. Yeah, so that's... So yes, the races are in the cold, or they're in the heat, or they're in the rain, and you just kind of have to adapt, you know. And
there's also the concept of a calloused mind.
What's that?
It's along the same lines. The same lines.
So there's Navy SEALs. They go through some crazy workouts, right? And they just, to exactly what Sargon was saying, they put them in these discomfort zones to be able to make it normal for them, so that they can perform when they go through in combat or whatever. And so there's a few popular SEALs that come out, and now they're doing these motivational things.
Yeah.
One of them, kind of
Goggins.
I've listened to is David Goggins. Yeah. This guy is crazy. And his big thing is talking about a calloused mind. And so he says people's minds play games against them where they say, oh, I can't work out now because I'm tired. Or, oh, it's too cold to work out. Or, oh, it's raining outside, so I'm not going to go outside. And he says...
You just had a huge business idea. You got to create what's called, like, instead of the Spartan mindset, the Assyrian, like, mindset. And it's basically this, like, what the Assyrian warriors, what their mindset was. And then sell that as a diet, as a pill, as a whatever
as
it is.
As a lifestyle.
As a lifestyle. Step number 1 is go to SargonSays.com.
So yeah, I mean the calloused mind basically does that.
Yeah.
I mean you basically make your mind just like the calluses on, you know, some people's hands when they do so many pull-ups, where it just becomes, you know, hard, right? So it's get that hard mentality.
But there has to be a sense of appreciation too, because
okay, but dude, you guys are like on another level. So what happens to somebody who's like, I don't freaking work out, I don't go to the gym?
Here's
what do you say to that person?
Let me say this. So this March,
yes,
my cousin Marian and I are gonna do a Spartan race.
Yes,
we're doing the sprint, which is a kind of an intro thing. And so, what do you say if you are talking to a young female who cares about her skin? You say, oh, Spartan, you're floating around in mud. Why go to the spa where you get a mud bath? Do a Spartan race. No, but really, it's has like even our oldest brother's wife. She does Spartan races with her friends. So you take it at whatever intensity level you want to, right? So you can walk it, you can jog it, and so I don't say anything to other people. People have to want to do something. You can't get anyone to do anything. They have to, if they have an itch, then you can provide them with an avenue or a door. But it's not in my interest to like say, hey, you should do a Spartan race. But my cousin said, hey, I want to do a Spartan race, and I said, okay. But regarding the callous mind, I think having a callous mind is it'll get you through something, but it won't keep you inspired to do like something greater. Right? Why? The callous mind is more of a motivational thing. When I hear it, yeah, there's nothing that inspires me about having a callous mind. For what? Are you saving babies? Are you like, what are you having a callous mind for? Right? It's a means to an end, which is great. I love it for that reason. And I think if that's deep rooted in some kind of inspirational thing, then it's great. Like if you can pivot that and think, I'm going to have a callous mind like the Assyrian warriors or our forefathers, and I think that itself that's the Martin Luther King like mentality, or the Mother Teresa, where you're really doing the real influencing.
For listeners that you're not seeing right now, but like Paul and Sargon are very fit. So do you guys ever have days where you're just like, I'm not into it, I'm gonna cheat and eat whatever I want? You
can't have a forbidden fruit. You have to listen to your body, and you, like Paul said, and if you have a forbidden fruit, you're gonna cave in. And so
Sargon used to eat raw cookie dough, and then go and run like 5 miles right afterwards.
My favorite. So everyone has a.
Did I give you the fuel?
No, for me, it's bags of chips.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm a big fan of fried chicken.
Okay.
That's my.
So you all are into your health, but it also serves as a greater purpose. Paul, you were saying that it allows for time to clear your mind and allows for creativity. And Sargon, if I'm hearing you correctly, it allows you to feel challenged in different ways. Would you say that's true?
I'd say I'm already a challenged person to begin with, but it's really, for as a tough a day I have, if the day is extremely tough, the only way to get over that mental hurdle is to physically go through some kind of experience.
Love it.
And so that's the way I operate. I mean, even after the Utah race, my dad was there. I had the Assyrian tattoos. That Spartan race, I don't think I could have run any harder. And at the end of that race, I crossed the finish line and my eyes started tearing. I wasn't happy. I wasn't sad. It was just like a physical reaction that like my body had gone through trauma.
Happen, yeah.
And so a lot of it is, I mean, we want to be able to take care of our parents, right? It means we have to be healthy. We want to have families. It means we have to be there for our families, right? And that doesn't just happen. You have to, right? And so you have to be cognizant of those things. And we have certain conditions that have affected our dad and uncles, and so we have to be mindful of the things we eat. And you only get one body. You only get one set of parents. You only get one body. Injuries make you think twice. Like when you hurt your shoulder wrestling, you probably missed the workouts you probably, it made you itch to want to go back for more. And so. Yeah.
So, but even within these races, like you were saying, you created the temporary Assyrian tattoos. Paul, you were saying that you'd created the Assyrian logo. Like everything that you do, there is still that part of being Assyrian. I mean, so like even
my phone screen.
That's beautiful. Who created that design, by the way?
Anuil Khoshabin.
Nice.
So
beautiful.
He actually helped us out a lot with the Assyrian app, with a lot of those designs. He works with me now, and so he's a big proponent of Assyrianism. Assyrianism, if that's
Assyrianism. It is totally. Why is being Assyrian so important to the both of you?
It's an identity, something you connect with. I mean, for me, that's important. It gives me, a purpose. And something to, again, there's a fraternity a part of it. If I meet an Assyrian in Olympia and they're willing to take me into their home, a perfect stranger, and treat me with such respect, that to me means something, And so every time I meet an Assyrian, that's how I want to treat them. That's how I want to interact with them. It's an excited sense. And for us, obviously part of it's where we grew up, where we weren't around Assyrians all the time. So when we did meet one that was like us, we got excited.
Humans want to be two things. They want to be loved. We all want to be loved. We all want to be loved, and we all, like Paul said, we need a sense of belonging. So we tend to stick to a tribe. So there's some itch inside of us that it magnetizes us back to some blood or some bloodline or some land. Maybe we feel uncomfortable here because deep down somewhere in our genes that we know this is maybe being in the United States is temporary. Like there's some calling in the back of your mind, like when we travel, we spend a lot of money in other countries, right? We're tourists of those countries, and we're patrons, and we'd like, I think it would be amazing if there was a Vegas in Assyria, like where people went to our homeland and had fun. I don't know if I'm probably not contributing anything to it, but I think by having a positive mindset and by doing what you can, then it's a step in the right direction.
What's something that people don't know about you?
I mean, I do teach these certain cycle classes.
Yeah. Oh, you do?
Yeah, I'm an instructor for this organization called Les Mills. They do certain types of bike workouts. They're a New Zealand-based organization.
He makes you sweat. I took his class.
Yeah, people come by and they say, "Oh, your class was intense." Yeah. So he's like,
"You're like good."
Yeah, I'm like, that's the point. Otherwise, I don't want you there. I don't need someone like acting like they're on their cell phone the whole time. So.
And then when you take his class, he goes through these visualizations. So it makes you
like how?
Like, so you think, I'm just gonna show up, support my brother, be another body on a bike seat, and so you're biking, and then he goes, "Now, imagine you're in third place," or he's like, "Now imagine your dog. Someone is chasing your dog," or and he just motivates you.
Oh yeah, that's the reaction people have.
And he's like, and while he's saying, "Now you're gonna go as hard as you can," he's like, "But remember, smile. So he takes you on this funky journey, which is pretty cool.
I love it. People are in for the ride.
Well, I think the smile thing came from, I don't know if we had talked about it, where if you smile, it makes it less painful. So it changes your mindset about it. So again, the calloused mind, changing your mindset, pushing through something that's difficult.
Yeah, if your brain is a CPU and it's constantly pulling through your body and it's looking for, hey, is there blood? If there's blood, then there must be a feeling of pain, right? So if it's looping through your body and your brain is saying, oh, I see you're smiling.
I'm
when you
intrigued
smile,
by the way that you're thinking.
then you must be happy. And so then you can force yourself to be kind of happy.
We're actually bots right now. We're not actually...
How about you, Sargon?
How do I...
No, he's trying to avoid a conversation.
Yeah, so I remember, okay, so the reason why I told you to bring your guitar here, yes, is because I saw a video of you and David Khetri playing the guitar together. So I was like, okay, hello, this was a random talent. I didn't know, I'm sure other people didn't know. How long have you been playing guitar for?
Yeah, so our father always played... Our father always played music by this guy named Farid al-Atrash, who played the oud. And it was, we didn't like listening to it growing up, but then as we got older, we realized, hey, this guy's got a talent. And some of his songs, he blatantly copies some Spanish music. Okay, like there's a song from a city in Spain called Malaga. It's called Malagueña, so it's named after the city. And it sounds identical, one of his pieces from that song. And so I like a style of Spanish music called flamenco. It has a Arab and like Jewish influence, and so it's the Andalusia part of southern Spain. Been there, took a workshop. You know, it was like a tourist trap thing to do. But I went there for a week, took guitar classes, and then once a week I take guitar classes here. The reason I was doing the thumping was there's a thing in flamenco called palmas. And so that's the clapping rhythm that they do. So it's a finger picking guitar on it's a nylon string, so the sound doesn't really project. You kind of have to listen for it, but it's a very, to me it sounds somewhat Middle Eastern. I wouldn't call myself good at it at all, but it's something I really enjoy.
So what song are you going to play for us today?
Yes.
Are we going to play a song?
Yes, please.
I thought that'd come back and bring it.
Take a moment.
Yeah?
Take a moment. Do what you got to do.
Okay. So I can try playing something, edit it out when I screw up.
Well, you gotta introduce it.
Yeah, what is the song that you're gonna play?
It's more of a style. I'll just play a little bit of a style. It's called Bulería. It's like a festive style of flamenco guitar. It's like a 12 count that emphasizes like the 3, 6, 8, and the 10 beats.
Now imagine that you're sitting down at a table at a restaurant. You're eating some dolma.
You're trying to enjoy.
Try to set the scene here for us, Paul.
And then some annoying guitarist starts playing wanky music. There's another style called rumba. Rumba is more playful, and this, if you're a real flamenco aficionado, they'll say rumba is not flamenco.
Why would they say that?
Some of the 4 major flamenco pieces are like, so flamenco is really like a fusion of Arab, Jewish and Spanish, but they would say it because rumba follows like this 4/4 time. It's meant more for like dancing. It's not like one of the, like they say alegría, bulería, soleá, and maybe like malagueña, those which are named after cities in Spain. Those are like the 4 core flamenco styles.
What about Andalusian?
So Andalusia is the southern Spanish region.
Region.
Okay. So they have Cordoba, they have Malaga. So this is rumba.
That's amazing. Wow. Do you ever get the chance to be able to perform, or is this sort of just kept within the home? And
I perform for myself quite a bit. I've done student like performances and stuff like that, but I wouldn't say I'm of the caliber where people would want to hear me at a restaurant. But we have like...
I would disagree, but...
Really?
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. We have like recitals and stuff, so we'll do like group pieces or whatever, and it keeps my mind off things. It's a challenge. It's tough.
Is there like a meetup group in the Bay Area where it's like, hey, anybody who enjoys playing flamenco style music?
There is, and the really good flamenco artists are probably the most emotional, so they're not necessarily the best teachers. Because it's like a very emotional form of art, and so, but my instructor is quite good. He kind of goes back and forth between here and New York. Wow. There is a flamenco society of the Bay Area, and what else? I've traveled.
That's for playing and for dancing, or
for
just
playing
for playing
and for dancing. So there's some dancers that we just kind of play backup for during their practices. Yeah, and so that's that. These were more of rhythm tracks that I played. There's a lot of like falsettos and melodies that are beautiful, but they're kind of on the spot without warming up the fingers. They're kind of hard and to play, and a little embarrassed to try those first shots. So I say, hey, let's try something slightly safe. So
that was beautiful. I'm sure our listeners will enjoy that too. Last question for the both of you is, our audience is our listeners from all over the world. So let's say that you're standing right in front of them and they were all in one room together. What is one thing that you would say to them?
I mean, you're empowered to take control over your own experience. So take control of it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that can be said above and beyond that.
If you're looking for a job and you're a product manager,
there's no secret. I think like growing up, you try to find your identity and who you are, and it's some people shield or shy away from their Assyrian identity, or they think convention is just for partying, and the social clubs are just meant for the same thing. But there's a reason those things exist, and they serve a purpose. And the intent of convention was, to start it after Semele and the genocide, to get the think tanks together. And yeah, if they can encourage partying and people to have fun together and then make babies 5 years down the road, then perfect, And so I think you can't change who you are, meaning you can't change the bloodline that you have, right? In the same way that you can't change your parents and you're born with one body. So embrace it if you can. And if you can't, sometimes life has an interesting way of kind of coming back around, and maybe you could use your Assyrianism I don't know what we're doing here with the phone, but maybe you can use your Assyrianism in some way that works to your advantage in an economical sense or from a personal incentive. And so if you can use it for that regards, then use it for a selfish reason, then for nothing else, right? You don't have to try to think you're doing social good. use it to your advantage. Have it be one of your investments, have it be your leverage. That's what I would say.
Thanks for listening. What'd you think about that performance, huh? I told you were in for a treat. I hope this episode inspired you in some way to get up, get out, and kick butt at life. Remember to continue spreading the word about us. See you at convention, and see you next week for episode 77.